Hi again, everyone. I'm really excited to welcome you to our conversation today. We'll be talking about increasing your product discoverability and how brands and retailers can convert more customers with deeper product information connected to those shoppers' needs, health, wellness, and lifestyle. I'm Lauren Gibbons, and I'm on the marketing team, and I'll be hosting you today on behalf of all of us at Label Insight, Nielsen IQ, and our friends at Forrester. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you spending this time with us. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get going. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll receive an email with a link to view the on-demand recording within 24 hours of the webinar ending today. We do have a large group today, so you're an attendee in listen-only mode on Zoom. So we'll use that Q&A feature. It's in the bottom middle panel of your screen on Zoom for any questions. So go ahead and pop your question in there as we're talking today, and we'll be monitoring that Q&A throughout. We've saved plenty of time at the end of the session to answer those questions. And if we're not able to get to your question live, we'll answer it via email within 24 hours. If you have a technical issue, use that raise hand feature that's also in the middle bottom panel of your screen, and one of us will chat you directly to help you resolve that issue. Finally, we'd love to keep the conversation going. So if a question pops up after you leave our conversation today, reach out anytime to marketing@labelinsight.com, and we'll make sure your question gets answered. So I want to start by welcoming you to our CPG and retailer community. You're in really good company here. We have marketing and e-commerce, brand managers, health and wellness experts, data professionals, retail dietitians from some of the brightest and innovative retailers. We've got national brands, emerging brands here, and we're really excited to host you and want you to feel comfortable asking questions. Likely you're not the only one who has that question, so feel free to ask it. I'm delighted now to introduce you to your presenters, Tim Whiting and Scott Compton. Tim leads marketing at Label Insight, which is now part of Nielsen IQ. Tim's worked in technology his whole career, and prior to Label Insight and Nielsen IQ, he worked with leading organizations like Walmart and AT&T, United Airlines, Discover, to help improve their digital customer experience. Scott is a senior analyst at Forrester. He's a retail e-commerce specialist. He's got over 20 years of experience with direct-to-consumer marketing. His research focuses on the strategies and technologies for stores and in the grocery sector specifically. He's got expertise in customer experience and digital marketing, UX testing, and conversion enhancements, all related to challenges and big opportunities I know this group is experiencing today. These two are really subject matter experts in both the CPG landscape and omni-channel customer experience. So I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation. So with that, Tim, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. And like Lauren said, welcome to our community. I'm very thankful to have all of these great industry leaders and many more joining us today. Some of our great customers are here. I'm also very excited to be here with Scott. As you heard from Lauren, he's an analyst, but he's also a practitioner with hands-on experience, both from a brand perspective and also a retailer perspective, with a focus on e-commerce and omni-channel sales. So Scott and I have chatted. I think this is going to be a great discussion for everybody here. So to put things, the content today in context, I just like to summarize, what you're going to hear today. There's a growing growing demand for very relevant health and wellness experiences, and it's a really big market opportunity, a multi-billion-dollar market opportunity. But e-commerce has highlighted that there's millions of consumer interactions right now are suboptimal, and this leads to customer dissatisfaction, lost revenue, lost loyalty, et cetera. But there's the opportunity with a data-driven strategy and a health and wellness strategy to help both retailers and brands, I know you're both here, remove friction, remove pain points, and as a result, grow revenue and loyalty. And that's sort of the summary of what you're going to hear today. So I just want to take you through what you'll learn today. Number one, there's a recent and accelerating trend, a couple of recent accelerating trends in consumer buying behavior we're going to talk to you about. Scott's going to take you through, both from a retailer perspective and a brand perspective, how you can profit from these trends. We'll have some recommendations for your business. And then finally, how Label Insight, a Nielsen IQ company, can help. For those of you that are familiar with Label Insight, we were acquired by Nielsen IQ last month, but we're already in market talking with customers about how our combination delivers incremental value. And today I'm very excited to share some of the details of that value with you. So let's start with some of the changing consumer trends that we're seeing out there in the market. There's a couple things happening right now. Number one, consumers are increasingly searching for and choosing products to meet health and wellness need states. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that is in a minute, and we'll keep coming back to this, but really think about that in plain English as things like, I'm looking for gluten-free products or low FODMAP products or sustainable products, really any need state related to health, wellness, or lifestyle. The other big trend that's happening in the market that's coinciding with this is the explosion in e-commerce and how this is really requiring a different approach to customer experience, both online and in store. So consumers have changed how they shop. We did some great research with FMI last year. And this is an excerpt from that research. And what we did identified from a primary research study out in the market, there's about 200 million shoppers in the US right now that adhere to a particular diet or health related eating program. That's pretty significant. There's another 180 million consumers that say they shop based on allergies or tolerances. And to put that in perspective, that's more people than have licenses in the US. So this is a big segment of consumers that are changing how they shop. They're thinking more about their need states. And health and wellness, plays a role in this. This is data from a new omni-channel study from Nielsen IQ. And basically there's a few takeaways from this. Number one, health and wellness can be defined, and we define it by these types of product attributes or need states. And here's some of the top ones listed here: low sugar, low carb, low sodium, et cetera. But more importantly, is the theme that health and wellness is really becoming mainstream. Conventional retail is playing more of a significant role in health and wellness. And I think of a story in my own life. My daughter was born with a celiac intolerance. And back then, we had to search out a specific grocery store that specialized in gluten-free products to meet this diet. And it was like 16 miles away. And you just fast forward that to today and how relatively easy it is to find gluten-free products now across any conventional retail channel. It's really interesting. And also there's some data here from McKinsey. It's quite a large category, $175 billion. And in fact, I would say that health and wellness is a segment that transcends every category. And Scott, you and I chatting a little bit about this. I know you have a perspective of this on this as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing the similar trends. More consumer shopping along their own values, whatever those might be, like locally produced, things like that, as well as health and wellness. Definitely two big trends moving.
Yeah, thanks for that. So need state shopping is gaining momentum. If you look at these slides, there's a couple of compelling quotes here. More than 70% of shoppers are looking for specific attributes when they're choosing a brand. But even more compelling, 78% of Amazon searches are unbranded. And what does that mean? That means people are looking for need states. They're searching for need states. They're not looking for brands. So for example, fragrance-free biodegradable detergent versus Tide, paraben-free shampoo, food for the keto diet, aluminum-free deodorant, clean dog food, low FODMAP bread, sesame-free egg rolls. I mean, there's these endless combinations that really define need states. And you'll see this, and you'll hear it from Scott, especially pronounced in e-commerce. And again, this just reinforces for me, and I think reinforces for our industry, that health and wellness is a segment that transcends all categories. And it's big money. I mean, look at a couple of these categories here. So we've got plant-based, a $5 billion market, ketogenic, a $15 billion market opportunity. We currently track thousands of these health and wellness need states, and you can do the math. I mean, this is big market opportunity for the brands and for the retailers that react well, anticipate, and gain unfair competitive advantage by tapping into this. So in addition to changing how they shop, consumers really have changed where they shop. And of course, this is no surprise to anybody here, but grocery e-commerce is sort of a big deal these days. There's a great new study that came out from our friends at FMI just recently. It's called The Power of Health and Well-Being in the Food Industry, Changing Landscape in a Time of Transformation 2021. Great study. And by the way, we did realize too late that this webinar was right on top of FMI Midsummer. So apologize to those of you that had to choose. Thank you for those of you that choose to came here, but we'll have the replay available for everyone. But some of the data from that great FMI study, 300% average online grocery sales increase during the early days of the pandemic. 212 million US adults are now online grocery shoppers. I mean, that's just amazing. And this is from eMarketer. Grocery sales in the US are projected to be $100 billion by the end of 2021. And that's basically 12% of all e-commerce sales across every category. These are just amazing stats. And so again, e-commerce is exploding, especially in grocery. And what has this led to? So it's led to new expectations, right? So grocery now and brands and CPG brands have to start thinking about competing on customer experience to acquire and retain and maintain and grow customers. And e-commerce is the front door to this. So you see some great quotes here. I love the one about the Amazonification of businesses. And this certainly applies to grocery and to CPG retail, because it really is raising the bar. And so I think about, my own world. I'm a Bonvoy by Marriott customer, and they've got a really cool app, and it's a great user experience. But now I feel myself when I'm on my Just For You app from Jewel here locally. I'm like, wow, that's really set the bar for me for the user experience I'm looking for in my grocery application. And similarly, REI.com, I find they have a phenomenal site search capability. And so now when I'm over on Instacart, I'm sort of like, wow, it'd be really cool if some of these practices and customer experience from other retail segments could be brought into grocery. And I think that's what you're going to be hearing more and more about through this webinar from Scott and out in the market. And you'll hear that personalization is a key to this customer experience, and health and wellness can be a key to personalization. So there's disruption occurring for everybody. Again, this is preaching to the choir a little bit, but you probably see this in your own world. If you're a brand, you're probably talking a lot about health and wellness in e-commerce as a strategic imperative right now in your business. We discuss it with our customers every day. There's new product innovation related to health and wellness. I love when you see a brand like Hershey betting big on good for you, better for you candy, or I guess the proper name is confections. A lot of that going on. There's opportunity for cost innovation. How can you reformulate and remove costs while still meeting these specific health and wellness need states? Of course, e-commerce discoverability is a big deal. More effective participation in retail media programs. As you see here, direct to consumer is becoming more of a big deal. And all this comes back to like, how can you thrive? How can you succeed at this intersection of health and wellness and e-commerce, which really equals customer experience. Similarly, for retailers, this is a strategic imperative. A couple things came out in the news today. I'll point you towards a Grocery Dive out today. There's some new research from McKinsey that said, out of a survey of more than 40 grocery CEOs they just completed, 53% of the CEOs list online groceries ongoing growth as one of their top 3 priorities. And that's pretty compelling. A similar research came out, or another research study came out today in Progressive Grocer. Check that out, from Symphony Retail II. They had a study, and what their study proved out was those who buy across channels tend to purchase more frequently and spend up to 20% more compared to shoppers who only buy in store. So pretty compelling. And from a health and wellness front, a lot going on. We're doing a lot of innovative things with, leading retailers like Target and Walmart and others in omni-channel health and wellness programs. A private label is booming in health and wellness. If you just look at, what some retailers like Target is doing with their health and wellness private brand portfolio, it's growing. It has the potential to displace national brands. And also health and wellness is being used by retailers, and we talk to them about this every day, as a lever for more effective audiences, promotions, and paid media. So we're just really significant disruption, but with significant disruption comes significant opportunity. And so we're really at an industry inflection point. Here's a couple of quotes from a couple of our great customers, Albertsons and Clorox. And Albertsons, you could read it yourself, but online is growing, and they're putting a lot of money and energy into digital transformation because they understand that this is where they're going to compete. This is where they're going to win. And I love this quote from Clorox, which just talks about, consumers are continuing to maintain levels of cleaning and shopping, et cetera, but they're looking for this frictionless, personalized e-commerce interaction. That's why they're investing, so they can really tailor and engage with the consumers. So this is happening right now. And what we're here to talk to you about is how you can take advantage of this to grow. So you've heard about the growth in health and wellness related to need state shopping, and you've heard about omni-channel led by e-commerce. And I'm very excited now to hand off to Scott and have him talk to you about some practical strategies. But I really want to leave you with this thought, and this will be a recurring theme. The concept of product attributes enable you to activate, whether you're a retailer or a brand, against these trends. And when we say product attributes, this really defines a product's need state DNA. So how well does a product fulfill certain need states? Is it organic, non-GMO, natural, plant-based, high protein, alcohol-free? Thousands of these are being searched by consumers right now, and product attributes really are key. So before I hand it off to Scott, we'd like to set the stage a bit by asking you all a question. So Lauren, I believe you're going to facilitate that. Here we go. So if you can read on your screen, there is a poll we'd love you to answer. How well are you, whether you're a retailer or a brand, serving the need state shopper? In other words, shoppers looking for certain diets, nutrients, claims, or avoiding allergies, whatever, certain lifestyle trends. How well are you serving them? You already have personalized activation across channels to help consumers find a full product selection to meet their needs. Second choice, you're activating pretty well in store based on labels, but have room for improvement online. The other choice, you're activating pretty well online, but it's disconnected to in-store activities. And then lastly, we're not currently doing a great job in general. So please take a minute and fill that out, and then we'll see what the audience has to say about this. So again, please take a minute to fill out how well are you serving the need state shopper, whether you're a brand or a retailer. All right, great. Check out the poll results, and then we'll see. We'll hand it over to Scott to get started. Okay. So it looks like activating pretty well in store, but have room for improvement online is the majority. Scott, is this any surprises based on all the clients that you talked to out there in the market?
Yeah, you know what? It actually is. I assumed we were going to be operating more efficiently online than in store. So this is a little bit of a flip-flop from what I expected, but there's room for growth here in online. Moving towards servicing need states is, I think, far easier than it is in store. So if that's the gap, we have the tools.
Wonderful. All right, I'm going to hand it off to you, Scott. Take it away.
All right. Go. All right, and are you seeing the presentation screen now? I have a slide?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. All right, guys, so we're gonna jump into how to reap the benefits of discoverability and conversion with automated, yes, automated, and deep product information. Now, I think most of us in retail, I've been in retail 20 plus years, like Tim mentioned, on the CPG side as well as on the vendor side, and also did food marketing into grocery. So I've had my fingers into some of these things, and also have a prior expertise in on-site search, where product attributes are basically, the building blocks. So I'm looking forward to diving in to talk about how some of these new tool sets that are out there can really, really springboard you to some new places in terms of both acquisition, loyalty, personalization, relevant search. There's so many aspects that it can help. So let's jump in. Quick lay of the land. Tim, you did a great job of that already, so I won't go too deep here. But let's just take a look at a couple stats here from Forrester. So this is from this year. They're asking top challenge for consumers in grocery shopping in 2021, right? The top challenge is finding the exact product they're looking for. Pretty clear descriptor in terms of a need state, right? From that consumer into grocery. The next one, 75% of US online adults say that it's important for retailers to provide advanced site search features. And I will also add that product filters are the #1 function that people say they need to have online, US online consumers. So people are going to search, they're using search, and product attributes are quite literally the building block of that good experience. So we're going to dive into that just a little bit. If we talk about groceries specifically, and Forrester asks consumers exactly what they're looking for, right? So when we ask them what information was most important in your recent grocery purchase, and this was also this year, so this is through the pandemic. This was just about a month ago, I believe this data came out. So very, very recent. But look at the pieces in green and note that those pieces are completely fueled by product attributes, right? So quality of the product, yes. Where is it from? What's it made of? Product meets my nutritional needs, clearly. Is it organic? Does it have no artificial ingredients? Is it local? Is it gluten-free? Is it vegan? All of those pieces come from your product attributes. And one of the pieces that actually Tim brought up to me, which I thought was brilliant, was that's not all on the label, right? It's genuinely not all on the label. So it's honestly not simply a factor of taking what's on the label, digesting it into content, and getting it onto your site or in search, right? It's quite a bit more than that. It's about like developing new ways and understanding how people are using language to try to serve their own need state, and it changes over time. So in addition to it being a lot more complex than it used to be, it's also can be very challenging to administer if you don't have the data in place to get started with it, right? So literally, product attributes are the building block. Again, I will probably say that 15 more times. I apologize, but it will be the mantra of my presentation. Okay. All right. So when we ask consumers, what do you want? Look at all of this. Look at all of the things that they say that is related to product attributes. And like I said, it's not all on the label. So there has to be some intelligent ways of getting to those need states and the way that people are describing it when they come to try to find them. People use all kinds of crazy words, right? Like Tim, in your example, you might have used gluten-free or celiac, right? Or people search for sugar-free and then find a bunch of sugar drinks because sugar is a keyword in the content, right? There's all kinds of intricacies related to findability that needs to boil down to semantics, and those semantics happen at the attribute level. All right. So what is the power of deep product attributes? And I do use the word deep on purpose. Okay, product attributes, as we've normally used them in the past, typically driven by your merchandising team or potentially the product team, depending on what kind of company you're running. But we inherit, essentially the e-com teams inherit some product attributes, and usually they're pretty good. And the merchandisers actually do have a pretty good sense of how people call things and the words that they're using. But the way things change over time and the way that we can democratize that kind of power down into, the merchandisers to give them the leverage so that they're not relying on the e-commerce teams as much is a massive win. We could talk about that a little bit later, but the power of deep product attributes means going far deeper than you've done before. It's not just price, size, color. It is going into, source of origin, all of the things you would find on the label traditionally, and then all of these other need states added on top of it. And you saw that slide that Tim showed that has all of those need states, and that's not all of them. That's all he could fit on the slide and still make it readable, is my guess, right? So basically, we've got to dive in, and this makes as much sense for the CPG companies as it does for the retailers themselves, because the retailers tend to inherit product data from the CPG companies or whoever's selling into the retailer. And when that product data comes in, loaded, completely deeply attributed, it makes it so much more efficient for the retailers to actually sell your product. So relates to both sides here. So I don't want to dig CPG or retail too much one way or the other. Just realize it makes a big difference for both. Let me run through this list real quick. So here are some of the examples of ways that deep product attributes really help you drive the bottom line. So the number one, probably the most important, is it empowers massive findability improvements. And this is findability from not just search, but also navigation, personalization activities, all kinds of things that you're activating across your digital properties, and not just your site, right? Apps, in-store app, all of those things across your digital properties to help that user find what they need. And it's literally that simple. Help them find what they need. Okay, it also drives really deep product comparisons. And there are quite a few upsides to having product comparison content on your site that helps people make that right choice the first time. So it allows folks, not only does it allow folks to compare the different attributes to one another, but it also allows you as a merchant to set up comparison grids and things like that on your site when you've got the data already at the product level, and you can automate what products come in and out of that set if possible, right? So there's a lot of opportunity here, but it has to be driven by the building block of product attributes. Okay, lowers returns. This one is related to the product comparisons. Basically, the more information that we give a consumer when they make the choice, as long as we're not overwhelming them, the more information we give them to make that right choice, the less chance they're going to be making the wrong choice and then needing to return it, right? Now, fit may be one thing. There may be a few situations there where it vibrates, right? But it definitely lowers returns to get the right product in front of the consumer the first time. That contributes, of course, to less waste related to returns and less labor related to returns. And there's a lot of movement there in terms of how consumers are actually starting to question what retailers do with their returns. There's a new movement on like reused merchandise, things like that, where we're trying not to waste. And I do want to call out that there's a value state out there where lower waste and less returns, and what do you do responsibly with those returns really does make a difference, and attributes drive that as well. Enhancing personalization opportunities. This one is massive, and we would be here all day if I told you all of the opportunities that attributes can actually be used to drive in terms of personalization. So a lot of us are at the state where we've got a persona, we know we want to activate personalization, we're working on our site to do that, but we don't have some of the kind of like intrinsic connections of the consumer to the product that we probably should have, right? So we know if someone's buying organic, we typically know that because it's on the label. It's a pretty common product attribute. If something's organic, it's on the label, it gets used. Now, if someone's buying sugar-free isn't always on the label. And Tim, you probably have a ton of other examples of things that aren't on the label, but people are using those words to find them, right? And each of those words that someone used to find a product is a personalization opportunity. So the first time they search on your site, the first time they click a filter that says, okay, I'm only interested in organic and show me everything local, or whatever those cases may be, suddenly you've got information that you can attach to that customer record that you can then activate personalization on top of. And if it's automated, it's even better. So there are a ton of opportunities here in personalization. Product recommendations. I mean, this one's a no-brainer. Clearly the way that you tie products together is through those attributes. And when there's an automated mechanism on the back end to actually tie those attributes together in ways that your merchandiser haven't thought of, that's where that real power comes from in using those deep product attributes. Also, it reduces replacements from third-party providers. So imagine, Instacart, you get that text say, oh, this can of beans isn't available. Would you like this instead? And then you have to go back through all of your product attribute choices to get them to the right selection, right? So what this does is it basically narrows that set. So you're either going to have fewer substitutions or more accurate substitutions because you know the need state of the consumer, right? Because we've asked them, they've clicked it, we know a little bit more about them. And it also enhances promotion activity through retail media and other channels. So these same attributes that were at the product level, now a customer comes through your site and has clicked on a few things, you know a little bit more about them. Guess what? Now you can start, and let's say they purchased. So you know something about that customer, first time visit, and now they purchased. Now you can push out lookalike audiences. You can push out all kinds of things into your acquisition channels that are related to those affinities that were literally all driven by product attributes and the relationships between them. So this was a lot of talk on one slide, but I honestly can't say enough about how important it is to get to that deep attribute level. And there will be if you're doing it manually, there's always this make or break point. Well, we can only go this far, right? Yes, this would be important, but the value against cost, we can only go this far. And that's why we're going to talk a little bit more about automating that particular process as well, okay? So let's talk about groceries specifically in health and wellness. We've got some cool examples out there of how grocers are really starting to tune into those need states that Tim mentioned. And really what we're out there to do is to satisfy that consumer demand, their choice and their way, right? So we've got a lot of food retailers out there starting to employ nutritionists or dietitians to really help guide those healthy food choices. We're also seeing a convergence of healthcare in grocery retail and drugstore retail, where I'm starting to wonder, actually, I think I have it on the next slide. I'm starting to wonder if there could be health insurance dollars flowing into these kinds of mechanisms in the future, right? So if I have a need state, let's say I have high blood pressure, I need a low salt diet, and I get like health guidance from my grocer. It's attached to my my individual record with them. What I buy, I'm buying all low salt. I can prove I'm buying low salt. Suddenly, the insurance company might have some interesting ways of playing dollars into this mix. So stay tuned for that. I don't know. Who knows? We're talking crystal ball at this point, but there's a huge opportunity, which Tim mentioned, in terms of health and wellness, and food is at the core, and the attributes is at the core of finding that food. So we're seeing lots of new ways to do it. Grocers are engaging their customers in new ways to include both nutritionists and dietitians basically on staff that can help them at any point. And we're also starting to see some simplifying nutrition and really trying to tailor it to the need state. So for a lot of folks, whatever their need state is, it can be complicated to understand, can be difficult to manage, especially if they're older or have other need states. So what grocers are really starting to try to do now, and we're still at an early stage, and we're at the building block stage here, but what they're trying to do is personalize to that individual consumer need via one-to-one personalization. And so this is far beyond just segmenting by a need, so far beyond just organic buyers, but really trying to tailor it down to that individual need on a one-to-one level, organic buyer, local, whatever is valuable for that individual shopper. And we're seeing a good amount of this. Here's a great example from Ralph's, where we've got dietitian approved recipes for certain need states, and they're simplifying their category of foods in like green, yellow, and red based on their application to that need state. So another way of helping the user basically digest the content, pun intended. All right. So we're going to get into some tactics now, a little bit of on-site tactics, both in on your apps and on your sites. I definitely want to pull out, I need to mention the prevalence of mobile right now and how much more influence there is on mobile over the past year and a half or so. We're seeing quite a bit more of it, a lot more mobile activity, a lot more comparison shopping, and a lot more shopping across brands. So we're seeing this state where folks are traveling to sites for the first time ever, and they don't know what you have. They're not familiar with your navigation. If you're talking about a new customer, they don't know what you have. They're not familiar with your navigation, and they're probably not starting at the homepage, right? So then now you've got a mess, right? If you don't know who they are and you don't have the product attributes to drive real findability on your site, what you have is a dead end, and we don't want that. So we're going to dig into some tactics here over the next few minutes about search specifically. And I have to say, like I said before, product attributes drive this whole thing. All right. So two great examples here at Amazon and Target. Two really big ones, actually. So ratings and reviews, I won't need to cover this too much. I think we're all thumbs up. Hey, that makes a big difference, both as retailers, brands, and also as consumers. We all use this and have been using it for many, many times, for a long time. What I would like to call out are these fulfillment options. So this is one of the most important, and this is not directly related to product attributes. It's directly related to product inventory at a localized level, but this is one of those really, really important filters. Don't miss this one, okay? The user needs to be able to shop by their fulfillment option choice and be able to filter at any point based on that, and then let those product attributes surface the right products based on the fulfillment method they're after. Detailed product filters down here in the bottom corner here at Target, you can see that they go into quite a few different things of type, roast type, deals, flavor. So they're digging into things that aren't necessarily on the label, and they're also throwing promotion opportunities into the navigation mix, which is kind of interesting. Like this little piece right here, deals. It's an interesting one. So let's talk about filtering a little bit more deeply at the growth for grocers specifically. And I have to mention this applies to CPGs too, because you are all sending that content data, or hopefully sending that product content over to the grocers. Without that level of attributes, it's on the grocers to do it themselves. And as we know, that can be a little bit slipshod. So what we'd like to do is control that. And it's a bit more of our, I mean, it's kind of like controlling our brand image as well. That content that pushes out and the filters that are used to find our products makes a big difference. So some of the filters that we're seeing a lot used are things like nutrition. Tim, you mentioned this at the beginning. So kosher, gluten-free, and these are those kind of like nutritional need states that we mentioned: vegan, dairy-free. There's also, we have some, they've called different things in certain places. Obviously at Costco, you can see they're calling it dietary features or nutrition or whatever it is. But essentially you're digging down into the need states, not pulled directly from the label, and building out the deep product attribute set to support this kind of filtering. If you look over here at HEB and Publix, you're also seeing similar things. HEB is doing badging to also call out their particular characterizations here. And in Publix, what you're seeing is they're actually digesting the entire nutritional profile of the product. So you can dig down by fat percentage, saturated fat, cholesterol, whatever you want. It's literally like reading the back of the label where the nutritional guidance is. So a lot of interesting ideas related to filtering, and they're very diverse, which also speaks to that need state becoming basically a market imperative. And this is going to be the way, as people are shopping across brands in grocery, especially right now, this is going to be one of those ways that you drive relevance and drive additional loyalty, right? By being, and when we ask US consumers, what's the number one reason they're buying grocery online? It's convenience, plain and simple. And if you're asking the same thing about loyalty, it's convenience. So what we need to do is really focus on that and realize that findability is a key piece of convenience, which is an infinite driver of loyalty. So content search. So a lot of us since I don't know what, of course, I don't know what e-com systems you're using out there, platforms, suites, whatever it is. I can tell you in my history, a lot of e-com sites were searching only product data, not real content across the site. And this was a big miss. And things have come a long way. The search tools are quite a bit better now. But one thing we definitely want to do is search all content across the site. So whatever the content is you're putting out in customer service support, make sure that's searchable. If you're putting content out for like seasonal merchandising strategies, things like that, make sure it's searchable. And same thing with recipes, make sure that they're searchable. This is actually one of the best, when I did a survey of grocery search, this was one of the best ones from Publix, where they actually let you search down into the recipes. So you could search by, kidney beans. I guess I'm on a bean kick today, but you could search by kidney beans. And you not only would you find every kidney bean can that they sell, plus dried, but then you'd also find recipes that have kidney beans in them. Right. And so it's going to that next level to connect the dots, trying to serve that consumer in their convenience need state. Right. And it goes both ways. So you can search by a recipe, or you can search by ingredient, and you'll wind up at the same place, which is, it's perfect. So check out Publix if you're interested. Another way of mastering merchandise moments for grocers is in meal planning, prepared meals, and meal kits. We've seen meal kits take off, through the pandemic. I think they're subsiding a bit now. We're all a little bit tired of cooking at home, I think, as things start to open back up. But meal planning and prepared meals, that convenience factor is still pushing pretty hard. And product attributes drive those selection as well, right? So if I come in as a consumer, I actually need to know if I'm going to pick up a prepared meal. If any of you have tried to read the back of the labels on the ingredients of a prepared meal, it's pretty challenging. It can be pretty challenging. Granted, I'm old, I wear glasses, but online, when you run into a friction point because the data isn't there to support the choice that the consumer is looking for, right? So if I come onto the site and I'm looking for meal planning or prepared meals, and the product attributes can't drive me finding my need states, then it's a miss, right? I'm going to go somewhere else. So in addition to just making the effort to try to do merchandise moments that include meal planning, prepared meals, and things like that, the building blocks of that are product attributes. Okay. And now you've heard me say product attributes, I don't know, 20 times, right? I'm really not kidding. I'm not kidding. And it historically, it was very, very painful manual process. And you would literally have to, maybe upstaff a few folks to come and do this like data work to try to, build out your product attributes. The game has changed, and there are advanced tool sets out there that can really get you to your end state. And actually, I shouldn't use the word end state because I think search and attributes are never done, but it'll get you to your incremental goal. Let's say that quite a bit faster than doing it in the old manual way. So lots of new tools out there. Recipes, I'm going to skip by this one because we kind of know what they are. It's basically, categorizing recipes by those same need states as well. So not only are you driving product attributes, but you're driving attributes of collections of those products as well, right? And I would consider a recipe a collection of products. So those attributes matter as well. And this is an interesting one, and especially I think for CPG. So we've got some really interesting merchandising moments related to rich sponsored content now. Grocers are getting more and more creative about the impact that they're letting CPG have on their digital properties. Not just retail media networks, which is one, basic banner advertising, things like that. But they're starting to get to a point where they're allowing sponsored content onto their sites because they can't build it quick enough themselves, right? So this is a huge CPG opportunity out there for you all to develop your content out in a way that's really, really meaningful for those end resellers. This can be a massive impact here. Great examples here from Amazon. And basically what they're doing is they're showing tons of content, and many of these are on the actual product detail page, not just the category page. So as many of us are used to browsing into a site, right? Homepage, category, then product detail page, or site search, product detail page. If you arrive at a product detail page before you've seen the rest of the collection, that rest of the collection is missing, right? So if you think about search and SEO especially, those people are dropping in onto your site, typically on the product detail page. So Amazon's technique here, which is a really great one, is to expose the breadth of the offering in the category on the product detail page itself, right? And those connections are all made by those product attributes as well. So really, really good example there. Another one is comparison shopping. Another, sorry to do this, but another example from Amazon, because they do a great job of it. And I will say that this can be done in two ways in terms of execution, right? Some of us in our web suites or platforms have comparison shopping tools that we can just build in. Others are just working straight HTML, whatever that is. Both can be done. This is the same thing that I was talking about on the previous slide, where these details are on the product detail page itself. So down at the very intricate level, there's still a breadth of offering displayed to the user and an easy way to compare those products so they can make the right choice the first time. Again, lowering returns, we talked about those impacts as well. So really good opportunities. Don't not do comparison shopping because you don't have a comparison shopping widget on your CMS, okay? Like build it anyway, build it especially, and try it as a proof of concept, see if it works well. But again, the thing that drives this, product attributes, right? And this also gets to a place where personalization opportunities start to really show themselves. When people start to dig through collections, we start to understand quite a bit more about what they're after. So exposure breadth. All right, lifestyle and product lifestyle video. Can't say enough about video lately. It's been taking off like crazy, and even shoppable video. And if you can imagine, the tie-ins from video content to product can be pretty tenuous. All right, so I've seen some very tenuous tie-ins where you're basically just showing a video. There's almost no real connection to the product, and that's not the way you're going to drive engagement and conversion, right? So really the goal is to tie those products in at a very deep level. And if you can do shoppable video, man, that's even better. But at the very least, be able to pull in all of the products that are within that video or that have attributes related to the things in that video as, as a category page or something like that for the transaction to happen. So don't forget about the commerce component of your video merchandising, all driven by product attributes. Last one. I'll probably say product attributes just one more time. Okay, the last really big merchandising moment is search badging. And it sounds so simple, but so many people are still not doing this. And it is such an easy way for the customer to navigate through a site. I've got two good examples here. One at HEB, where you can see they're actually using badging in the left nav. I think it's a really great solution. And it works really good on mobile too. So if you look at their filters on mobile, those badges read very, very easily compared to a long text string. So badges are pretty interesting. At Publix, the example that I pulled out here was really related to them getting into the nitty-gritty details and developing content about each particular badge. So not just showing a badge because it's related to a product attribute, but talking about the value of the badge, relating to the consumer, relating to the consumer's needs behind why they would shop that badge, things like that, right? So we want to go deeper here, and Publix is doing a really great job. Like I mentioned them probably 3-4 times in this deck. I would check them out in terms of how search and attributes are all working on their site. They were one of the best examples out there that I could find. And Tim, I think we're back to you now. This is my last slide here, but I could say product attributes one more time.
No, I appreciate that, Scott, and I'm glad I'm not playing the product attribute drinking game, because that
right, no kidding, no kidding.
Today. Oh, can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Almost.
Okay, let's try here.
Not quite. And while you're doing that, let me just mention, I want to mention one more time, because I've also just done some research into search tools specifically. And I have to say, everybody on this call needs to check out the automation involved with product attributes from one source or another. Okay, guys, you've got to check it out, because the nitty-gritty, grinding, unsexy data management work that it used to take is not the case anymore. The end state is still the same, right? But getting there has completely changed. So I can't, if you're on a search team, if you're even just interested in developing out relevance on your site, or trying to figure out a way to drive personalization activation on your site, you've got to check out the new tool sets that are out there.
Yeah, thanks for that, Scott. And also a brief commercial from our side. We did another great webinar just on that with our partner Salsify. So check that out on our website if you're interested in that. All right, I'm going to keep going and connect the dots. So thank you, Scott. That was phenomenal. Really this transformation we're seeing in the industry, we like to think of it as like the old point of sale was product-based. We're moving to this new POS, which is really the point of search, which ironically enough, product attribute-based. And there's a big opportunity that exists today. And Scott, you touched on a number of this. I mean, so e-commerce, omni-channel grocery is booming. Consumers are searching for products based on individual needs and not brands. And it's not a great experience. I mean, here's a real example. You search for peanut free and you get peanut butter and peanuts. There's still a big opportunity to improve that. And Scott, one of the use cases you mentioned, I was thinking, that replacement. Through the pandemic, we're using a third party, picker for some of our groceries, and we put an order in, and we said it was okay to substitute. And my daughter ordered strawberry ice cream, but it wasn't like real ice cream. It was, low cal, low fat, high protein, whatever else. It was strawberry. The out of stock replacement was what I would call real ice cream. So it was strawberry, but it had extra fat and extra calories and all that good stuff. So, well, I ate it, but she was disappointed. And I think that is a great example of how a more sophisticated profile that goes beyond flavor, goes beyond category, it would have solved that. But the key to that is that product attribute data initially, flowing from the brand. And to bring it to life a little bit, Scott, you mentioned those product search filters, and why I think you said it was one of the top things consumers are searching for. We actually went out and we did an audit, and we audited the top 30 retailers. And what we did is we took the top 100 searched attributes. We know from our data set what are the top need state attributes in food and beverage consumers are searching for. You see a subset here just to bring it to life. We searched 101 of these, and then we compared that to what's being returned by that faceted search or that search filter compared to what are the products in that retailer's assortment that would qualify. Because again, remember, we have this data. And what we found that based on the retailer data alone, 95% of the products in their assortment that could have been brought back to fill the digital shelf for these types of need states were missed because the data was not in good shape. And so we took another cut and said, well, we actually have in our database a view to that label data. So we can go on the CPG side and say, okay, based on the label for these same searches, what would have been brought back. And what we found, even with that label data, 90% of the products that were in the retailer's assortment that would qualify for these need state searches were missed. And so this is a big missed opportunity we're able to quantify. By the way, this study is available. We'll tell you how you can get your own copy at the end of the webinar. But again, just bring some of your themes to life. And speaking of, bring it to life, here's a great example. So keto diet, the 5th most searched for attribute across all grocery categories online. 98% of the products in market that could claim keto do not claim keto. So they are not being returned as the 5th most consumer attribute search goes out across online channels. And to put a finer point on it, 51% of the brands out there, the CPG products, fail to claim their single most searched for attribute. 87% of food products fail to claim at least one of their 3 most searched for attributes. So this is a big, large, widespread missed opportunity for sure. And all this leads up to personalization. So I'll echo Scott again, right? So connecting personalization to health and wellness, it's going to lead to richer customer profiles, high impact personalization, improved discoverability, increased growth, increased loyalty, all that good stuff will follow. So what does Label Insight do? Basically, we unlock the DNA of your product, right? So what we do is we ingest label information into our database, but then we deconstruct it. And we have machine learning that's trained by food scientists and chemists and registered dietitians, et cetera. And basically, we break it down and identify 24,000 need state attributes per product. Basically, deep product DNA for every one of your products. And our database holds 200,000 nutrients, 400,000 ingredients, 9 million product claims. And it's all organized in a taxonomy to make sense of all the structured and unstructured data so it's useful to you. And so to bring that to life a little bit, I got a can of, let's see if I can put this up here, Amy's organic chili. And a very good product, by the way. I love this. I would argue that this is a brand that's seeking to position themselves as a health and wellness brand. But if you look at it on the label, you see they do a pretty good job. They say, as Scott said, organics on there. It says it's gluten-free, it's certified vegan. It's also a non-BPA lining on the can. But what if I'm looking for something that's heart healthy? What if I'm looking for something that's soy-free or ketogenic or non-GMO or diabetic healthy or high protein or 24,000 other attributes? Does Amy know that about her product? I don't know. Does Mariano's, where I bought this, know that about Amy's product? I don't know. But we know, because we know how consumers are searching and we know how this product meets those need states. And that's sort of the magic of Label Insight. And when you go back to that audit we did, when we looked at our own data, we were able to identify 99% of the products in the assortment that would qualify for these top 100 need states. 99% would have been returned if the Label Insight product attribute data would have been leveraged. And again, the study's available to you, and we'll tell you how to get that at the end. And it really enables discoverability. So across these need states, just huge improvements in discoverability. And this is really a sweet spot for us. Interestingly now, with Nielsen IQ, we're uniquely positioned to provide a true 360-degree health and wellness view. It's really unique in the market. So when you think about that, and here's a snapshot of real data based on a year. How many consumers are searching for a certain need state? How many products are failing to claim that attribute? What attributes are actually being bought by consumers, and what's the growth? You put all that together, you have a really amazing data set. And here's a food and beverage example across a few attributes of what's happening and where there's white space, opportunity for growth, what competitors are doing, et cetera. Similarly in beauty and personal care, and we cover a number of different categories, putting together a Label Insight that brings you the search and the product attribute data in great granular detail with very, very recent data, connecting that in to the retail measurement around what consumers are actually buying and where the growth opportunities are occurring. And you see, here's an interesting insight you might want to investigate, right? If you're in beauty and personal care, 63% dollar growth in biodegradable, right? In beauty and personal care. Maybe that's an opportunity you want to tap into. So again, super excited about how Label Insight, now as part of Nielsen IQ, is going to provide a 360-degree view of this really, really important growing health and wellness market. So we're the world's leading product attribute metadata solution. We serve some of the leading brands and retailers in the world, also work with folks like the FDA, and now as part of Nielsen IQ, the most comprehensive and robust healthcare, health and wellness data provider. And by the way, I mean, our product attribute data, Scott and I talked about a number of things today with the focus on e-commerce discoverability, a little about retail media. We work with brands and retailers across a variety of business critical use cases like new product innovation, merchandising, and even the sort of basic product management, getting their PIM integrated and getting it set up with attribute data. So if you're interested in any of these other use cases, please reach out to us. So key takeaways for today, there's big changes in consumer buying behavior. Health and wellness can be a big advantage for both retailers and brands. That can be a key in profile data to really unlock omni-channel experiences. And as Scott said, the product attributes of this product DNA really connects customer experience to consumer expectations. And that really can be your unfair advantage in today's marketplace. And by the way, Label Insight can help, and we're happy to do so. So with that, we probably have time for a couple of questions, Lauren. I know we're a little tight, but let's try to get some questions answered.
Yeah, we're a little tight. I'm going to throw this first one to you, Scott, and then Tim, feel free to jump in. Okay. This one's from a brand. It says, we're a growing brand. We're just getting started with distribution through the major retail channels. Can you share some additional tips with us on how we can start now to ensure we're showing up high and often throughout those retailers' search?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to say it again, product attributes. Sorry, but for real, I'm not joking. So check this out. If you're a growing CPG brand, if you dive down in and develop out rich, deep product attributes and content to support it, right? Then the resellers have ultimate choice basically in how to merchandise you. So it provides basically an open door for them to put you in whatever category they need to throw you into a promotion based on a need state. All of the ways that they try to engage a consumer based on that consumer need, you will then have a product connection to that need, right? And so I really think that one of the best things that you can do is really develop out that content. And not only does it doesn't just serve the e-commerce buyer, okay? It clearly serves the in-store shoppers in those environments as well, but it also serves your sales teams. So your sales teams selling into grocery, if they have a litany of product attributes to actually draw from, and they're working with an account and suddenly understand, oh, they're talking about heart healthy, right? Then they can dial in on those products very simply. And you're providing that content through as well, so that it appears on the sites. When that content appears on the sites, you get better organic rankings. You have new ways to drive people in via search advertising, other promotional pieces, social, all of it. So literally, you just need to make the anchor points in your product content at the attribute level to start to make those connections of the way the world is now, right?
Yeah, I think that's great. Only thing I'd add, Scott, is understand the attributes of your product and look for the long tail opportunities where there might be.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And those are the ones that don't get touched in a manual process. The 80-20, you focus on, the 80-20 rule, like those ones never seem to get touched. So yeah, 100% agree.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if we didn't get a chance to answer your question, we'll be sure to send you a note afterwards. Thank you all again for joining. Post-webinar, you'll receive, like I mentioned, the replay link, the empty aisles report that Tim mentioned, that's our retail audit report, and then links to Scott's most recent Forrester research. Again, reach out anytime to marketing@labelinsight.com if you have additional questions, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.